All right, we are off, and we are on right
and
here.
We're back.
We are back a day later, and we're fine, but maybe a network short for someone else. I don't know.
Well, I mean, news happens fast. The life comes at you fast. Isn't that what the commercials say, Brian? And it was getting later in the day yesterday, which was Wednesday, and we decided we've done the brunt of this podcast, and we had some personal commitments. And what the heck, we'll take a couple questions tomorrow and do a couple of things and put the tag on the program, which is now tomorrow is Thursday. And before we've even inseminated the program that we've just recorded that you have previously heard, folks, if you've listened to this thing all in order. So we said what we were going to do was come back on Thursday morning, which is now, and we were going to just put the end of this program together, a couple of questions, whatever, and overnight, before we have ever even inseminated or disseminated or put out the program that the people have just heard, if they've listened to this thing in order, a lot of people are saying, apparently, Brian, what we were just saying earlier in the program yesterday. Things are happening quickly.
Yes, very quickly, allegedly, apparently.
Apparently, everything but your answer, your response. No, that's what I'm saying. It's a lot of people are saying the same thing that we were saying, that Warner Brothers Discovery may want the #1 wrestling program if they're going to be spending money at all, and it may be because of Punk. Who are all the people now that are lining up with this conversation?
Well, the reports that are now coming out, and no one is exactly sure where they're disseminating from, there are different rumors, but the reports are that Warner Brothers Discovery have re-engaged in talks or engaged in talks with WWE just recently, possibly due to the inclusion of CM Punk on WWE's bottom line. I'm really not exactly sure, but the rumor is that a meeting was held in New York City, and they were talking to the right people if you were going to try to do a deal and make it financially feasible. So we shall see what happens. It's important to note that Warner Brothers Discovery owns a bunch of channels, not just TBS, not just TNT. I'm sure WWE could end up on the Home and Garden channel or TLC.
What's the Destination America schedule looking like these days? What about Pop TV?
If you're an executive from that company and you have limited wrestling knowledge whatsoever, maybe you have some wrestling knowledge, I don't know. Not everyone's us, ladies and gentlemen. Not everyone's that person who knows the title history of the NWA. So if you're that person and you're sitting ringside at any Dynamite anywhere in the country or Canada right now, or any WWE show, which one do you want on your network? Now, Raw is going to be expensive. It's going to be very expensive. But it's also, double the audience, typically, of Dynamite.
Well, with Punk in that quarter Monday night, it was 1.88, almost 1.9 million, so that's double plus 300,000.
So again, we've talked about it. We've alluded to things that we have been thinking, I guess I could say. And look at what's happening now. Again, nothing could happen. Maybe Tony uses this and gets himself a good new deal.
Did you see somebody on Twitter just before we started this was retweeting something that one of the really dedicated AEW fans said? It was, well, somebody ought to just show the network the cage match ratings and how Tony has had so many more 5-star matches than WWE never has them, and that'll convince them that they need to be on the network. What? A TV executive is going to go, well, who has more 5-star matches?
Yeah, at this point, next to the star rating, I want to see the viewership. Let me see the TV rating next to the star rating.
Yeah, I'm sure if you put the ratings next to the TV ratings, the Nielsen ratings, next to the 5-star match ratings for a TV executive, I'm pretty sure that the viewer ratings would be inversely proportionate, if I've used that term correctly, to the fucking cage match, death match, fucking 5-star ranking committee or whoever but that's the way these people fucking think. They don't understand. This is how Tony Khan probably thought going in. He didn't understand business. I told you the impression that I got from my first conversation with him was that this was a done deal. This was a fait accompli. He was going to beat Vince McMahon in the WWF. They were toast because he was going to give the people all this great wrestling, which he has yet to give them. Not much. But he thinks it's great wrestling because it's a bunch of indie clowns fucking doing moves to each other.
Because it's his wrestling.
And but there was never any acknowledgement in his conversation or even the tone of his voice or his demeanor about how, this might be tough. When we get TV and we get money and blah, 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 this might be a challenge. No, it was like, oh, WWE sucks. Now we know why he thought they sucked, because they didn't have fucking pockets and legless wonders and indie darlings doing spinning fucking triple indies.
And you were battling Vince with the idea that Triple H was going to take over one day, but he was in NXT, and then Triple H was gone. And you're thinking, oh my God, Tony against Vince. Vince looks shot. And now it's Tony against Triple H, and Triple H is kicking his ass.
Let me tell you something. If Vince could be in a mausoleum for 6 months and cold as a banker's heart, and I still would say it'd be even money with Tony Khan living and Vince dead for 6 months. So I wasn't even going to fucking bet on it with Vince still alive, even if he'd lost his mind. Vince with his mind tied behind his back can still run a better company than Tony Khan. I think that's been shown. Vince had a shit product, but he didn't have goddamn anarchy in the goddamn Titan Tower.
If you remember back to the very early days of us talking about AEW, when there was still some optimism, I always said this is a great opportunity for wrestling executive development. If there's a meeting with the heads of a studio or the heads of a television network, and it's Nick Khan and Triple H and Mark Shapiro, or it's Tony Khan, and who? And who? His dad?
QT?
No, QT resigned.
QT said beforehand.
QT said, I'll take my chances on the open market. I'm going to jump off this ship now. Cody would have been there. Cody left and turned around and said, I never want to be an executive again. So then you're talking about Tony.
Punk would have been the guy to walk in with to any network presentation. Oh, he's gone.
No, you could have Danielson come in with his eye patch. So now here's Crazy Tony and his pirate friend. But that's it. Tony has to pitch it and let his enthusiasm and love for wrestling and his dad's wallet show versus seasoned executives. Seasoned at making deals. Tony's in a lot of trouble.
Do you think when Tony Khan walks into the network meetings, he hugs the program executives like he hugs the wrestlers? I mean, a serious question. Do you think I love you guys?
I don't think to start a meeting, and it can't be to end any meeting, but if a good thing happened, I could see Tony, trying to goose Zaslav or something.
Zaslav may be getting goosed by a different suitor. But anyway, so we're getting ours out there. A lot of other people are talking about these things. We'll see what happens, what transpires.
Yes, we will. And that's, I wish there was more to report right now. It's so fascinating that it's all happening. I had heard the Raw TV deal was done. Maybe Tony heard that too. I don't know.
Maybe it was done in principle, but then all of a sudden Punk shows up and they pop another number and the social media's through the roof, and maybe WWE say, we could probably do better elsewhere.
The way things happened wasn't perfect. And CM Punk didn't behave perfectly. But a lot of things happened, and here we are. Did this all end up being the perfect timing for this guy? In terms of him being able to take care of himself, but also in terms of the company being able to maximize his importance.
Yes.
Right when they're negotiating that TV deal. The whole business is about that TV deal.
It's like Think about this. What is the other thing that happened in wrestling that worked out perfectly to fucking make a company a shit ton of money? Fucking Montreal. The goddamn double cross. Right? Completely unplanned, well planned, but you know what I'm saying. A spontaneous occurrence that ended up getting Vince McMahon and the WWF over more in the way they needed to be than anything ever, and got Brett a multi-million-dollar contract until fucking Goldberg kicked him in the head. And now, from all this chaos and all of this slander of Punk that he's a cancer and he's out of the wrestling business, nobody will ever touch him. No, in the real world, Tony made Punk even hotter by running a sloppy shop and by forcing him to attract so much attention to himself and his activities that he became the hottest thing in wrestling. And then Tony handed him to the fucking competition to become the hottest thing in wrestling. And it worked out perfect, even though Tony was not trying to do this. And I don't think that Punk walked up to Jungle Jack off in Wembley with the idea, if I front face like this little weasel, I'll make more money than I've ever made in a business in my life. I don't think that was uppermost in his head, but it's worked out that way.
Well, it's still playing out, and we shall see what happens, but we will keep the listeners updated through time travel or whatever means necessary on the trials and tribulations of the Raw TV deal.